Good afternoon, everybody. Derek Show here, and this is Flush in the Pocket, presented by Brunswick, sponsored by Just in Time Recreation. Check them out at justintimebowl.com. We got a great guest this afternoon, and if I was to ask him, 30 years ago on a Saturday afternoon, and if he could do this podcast, he'd say, "I'm busy. I'm getting ready to make a telecast." So today we have Kelly Coffman on set with us. Kelly, how are you?
Pretty good, Derek. Nice to be here, and glad to have you.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we were able to do this, and so we'll get started here. If you guys have questions in chat, how did you get started bowling? Oh,
I got started back in before I was even born. Honestly, I was basically born in a bowling center, not literally, but before I was a month old, I was in a bowling center. I don't remember that obviously, but so I started bowling in league when I was like 5 years old. Just family thing, born and bred into it, right? So I bowled in league every Saturdays. My best friends I bowled in league with. We hung out, you know, overnights on the weekends after bowling. So that was pretty much it.
yeah. All right. That's cool. So who coached you?
Well, my dad was Topeka's a small town, right? So
Mm,
Topeka, Kansas, where I grew up, is a relatively small town, and my dad was generally one of the top 10 bowlers in the area, and carried over 200 average back then. And so he kind of taught me what he could. He worked sometimes on Saturdays, but whatever he did, he was able to teach me a lot of the basics. When we bowled in junior leagues, they had coaches and stuff like that. Generally, they were your average bowlers that were bowling in league and helping you out. So basically, the basics were taught by my dad, and whether it be coaches within the Saturday morning junior leagues, right? And
hmm
that's pretty much how I got taught as far as up to the basics, until I went to college.
Yeah. How did you learn how to hook the ball the way you do uh on TV?
Well, um, I think it was, if anybody, the people who do know me know that I have a very analytical mind, and I like to analyze everything. And so what I did was when I went to bowl on the University of Kansas, our team was not known for a bowling team, right? We kind of put together, in fact, the women's team, they had to recruit from people who were just bowling in the bowling, taking bowling class, right? Bowling 101. They're wearing house shoes. But that's kind of how our bowling was, for Kansas. But our competition was Wichita State University, and anybody who's into bowling understands how great they are, right?
Mm,
Back then they had Chris Whitty, Mike Jazz. Now that I was bowling against, these guys were hooking the ball, and
mm,
I'm like, my God, I'm watching the way they can actually create more area on the lanes and create pin action back then. And I'm like, I want to learn how to do that. So basically, I took and watched them and broke down thing between, what all these guys did, their intangibles that made them hook the ball. And I said, look, okay, I need to learn how to cup the wrist. I basically took all that ingredients and created my own recipe like a mad scientist, so to speak, and I created what I wound up being on tour is the big hook ball player, and creating that big urethane release with the bent elbow coming through, which is a lot more indicative of what it is nowadays, right?
hmm Yeah. So speaking of Kansas, Brian Goebel, Kansas boy and former guest on this show, he actually says hello. I told him that you were going to be on, and he said, "Say hello and tell him Goebel says hi." So yeah. Um, what?
Brian is probably one of the nicest guys. Sorry there.
Oh yeah.
Talking over you. I know we kind of have a lag here between when you say something and I say something, but I was just going to say Brian is probably one of the best human beings I've ever met. Um, you know, just I roomed with him for years on tour. In fact, he texted me a few days ago when he found out I was going to be on this. He was in Vegas bowling, so he texted me and said, "Hey, I hear you're going to be on there with Derek," and I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, so really great human being.
Oh yeah.
A lot of fun times. We were very, I was a little more outgoing than him, but again, probably to me one of the most underrated bowlers, and never got his star recognition. I know he got to where he was at, and people recognize him. But I think when you look back and you see he's won two, I think it's two Firestones. He's got over 10 titles. People don't think that of Brian, and I think
Hmm.
that he is a better bowler than what people has given him credit for.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, Brian's I mean, that was almost, I think that was a 3-hour podcast. That was incredible. If you guys want to check it out on the archives. Um, what did you accomplish, Kelly, that in your bowling life that made you ready to, try the tour, get your feet wet and see what happens on the PBA tour?
Well, again, I went to bowl for University of Kansas. Out of college in '83, and I think learning how to be able to hook the ball and do different things, and then continuously bowl in league play in my area with my my family and obviously friends, and bowling in leagues on 2 or 3 nights a week, and all of a sudden learning how to hook the ball and realizing that I went from being kind of I was say average bowler. I was a 200 average bowler, but all of a sudden being 200 average bowler to being 220, 230 average bowling back then, and being the highest average in the city at the time. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm trying to be modest, but I'm like, maybe I'm better than, I'm going to give myself a good chance here. And maybe I should try that. I never really thought about
Mhm.
that until I got to that point where I learned how to hook the ball, and all of a sudden I started shooting 300s, 800 series, and started to win local events. And I'm like, you know what, let's see what I could do. And I decided to raise up a little bit of money to bowl a couple of regional tournaments. And I think the first regional tournament I bowled, first PBA event regional tournament, was in Denver, Colorado. Um, I believe Eddie Kelly won that, and then second place was Dale Ballard, and then I was third. I
Mhm.
finished third in my first regional, and I didn't
Wow.
even know what I was doing, so kind of a
Mhm.
fish out of water. But I was like, and so I kind of got the bug from there and just kind of kept going.
Wow. Um, okay. What would you say was your best moment on tour?
One particular moment, and it's hard to define one particular moment. I think the best moments is anytime you finish Friday night, and you've made that top five telecastable on national TV. The
Mhm.
excitement of just that point on Friday night, and going to that, and then getting ready to bowl on TV, it is unparalleled with anything else that I've experienced on tour as far as bowling, aspects. Obviously, everything about the bowling, my peers and friends and fans and everything else out there is great to meet the people and talk to people and do all that. But really just making that TV show and telecast is incredible. Probably one of I think probably the best moments on as far as for me on TV is a couple titles I felt like I really could have won, and it
Mhm.
just unfortunately it didn't happen, and that
Mhm.
was it. So I mean, but yeah, really making the TV telecast is just
Yeah. Do you sleep better on a Friday night, on Friday night knowing you made the show Saturday, or is it kind of restless night sleep because you're so nervous and, am I finally gonna win? How's it gonna go? Wha you know, what's I guess when you make the show, what is it like
yeah.
after
You,
that?
you were breaking up a little bit. Yeah, Derek, you're breaking a little bit. I heard mainly what you said. Yeah, on Friday night, I think it's I don't think you sleep really well anytime Friday
Mhm.
night, because you're anticipating anticipation of what can be, and
Mhm.
you're excited. It's hard to get to bed that night. Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, it is. It's a restless night, and it doesn't mean you're exhausted the next day because you have your adrenaline still going from Friday night, and it's
Mhm.
always that way. And whether it be my first telecast or my 10th telecast or whatever telecast I made, it's always been that way.
Mhm. Um, what would you say was your worst moment on tour?
God, you take the worst moment. Obviously, any, I think again, it's like you can't sit there and say it's just one day or one tournament. I think
Mhm.
it's accumulation of just having um, you know yeah, a bad just when you're not scoring well, right? Or whether the
Mhm.
conditions don't favor me, and I struggle on certain conditions, and you go from there. Those are bad moments, and I'll tell you right now, probably the most. So it's a very frustrating moment. So I don't know if you call it bad moment, frustrating,
Well,
and I
whatever.
think
Yeah.
the most I say bother most bothersome moment is probably when I started getting into the late '90s, and I was away from my family. I know some of these guys spend 20, 30 years out there, and they have kids at home, and they're gone 8 months out of the year, and they can handle it. I don't know. I think family was really important to me, my kids, and I think it was very difficult for me. I think going to the late '90s, and it was tough, especially when you have, I had three kids. I have two sons and a daughter, and then I think when you come home and they're really young, they're 1, 2 years old, and they don't
Mhm.
understand when dad leaves for a month or 2 months out on the road, that you're not going to see your kid for 2 months, and I think those are your bad moments, right? So I think to me it was my struggle of wanting to be home, but I wanted to be my job out there at the same time, and I think it really affected my job out on tour, and I think that's why I wound up quitting the tour, family.
Yeah.
So I think those are
Uh,
probably my worst moments because of being away from family.
mhm. So I don't know if this will make it a little bit more worth it. There's a fan that I was telling you about the other day named Adam, and he said, "Hey Kelly, enjoyed watching you compete on the tour back in the day, as did I." So, I mean, people enjoyed watching you, man. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, and you know what? I'll tell you what. Anybody that remembers me on tour has got a good memory. It's been a while, so I appreciate it. I was always, we used to get fan mail all the time, and I
Really?
would say all the time, but I would get fan mail, right? They would say, "Hey, it would come through the PBA. We would get it. They would send it to the PBA. They would forward it to our address, and I'll tell you what, I had, when I was on Ebonite staff or whatever staff is on, I was on track, and with turbo grips or with them guys, and then we photos, and or I would have old shirts, and I always wrote back to them if they asked me for something. I would always be more than happy to sign it, whether it be a photo or an old jersey, and send it back to them. I had no problem doing that. I loved the fans, and you know what? I think in any sport, if you don't have a fan base, you don't have
Right.
a sport,
It's
because it's they're the ones who make it special for us out
mhm.
there, right?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know.
Yeah, I mean, if if you don't have anybody watching, all right, we're gonna bowl on Saturday afternoon on ABC. What's the point? Who cares? Nobody watches. You know, yeah, I mean, you gotta have a fan base. And I love the PBA because
Right. There's no tour.
the yeah, because I love the PBA because they are the most approachable. You'll never meet Michael Jordan, but you'll meet Jason Belmonte. You'll meet Parker Bone, Walter Ray, all those guys. Kelly Coffman. So, um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not as big a star as Jason Belmonte or Walter Ray or Parker Bone, any of those guys, but I had my fair share out there, and I'll tell you what, it is, and it just, I think those are probably my best memories of just the friends, and and the people that I've been able to meet and travel all over, just not here, but just different countries, and going to Saudi Arabia, bowling over there, and then, the Japan Cup, and just being immersed in not only different cultures, but different people, not here just around the country, but in different parts of countries and different, so I think that was just, I tell you what, those are memories I'll never forget.
Sure. When did you leave the tour, and why did you leave the tour?
Well, I think I kind of answered part of that, and it was my family. I just
Right.
got tired of being on the road 8 months out of the year, and not seeing my kids and everything, and it was really, here, give you for example, is when you're on tour, you have to be mentally focused. And I
Mhm.
remember going up there, and a lot of us have different bowling balls that different they do different things, and I remember standing on the approach, getting ready to throw one of my shots, and I'm like, I've got the wrong bowling ball in my hand. I'm not mentally there. And I think that was in the, like, 98. And I'm like, I
Mm.
can't keep doing this. And I said, I've got to decide whether it's family or bowling, right? And,
Yep.
to me, I have my bowling family, but I had my family at home. So,
Right.
I just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore, because I can't focus and give 100% out there. Physically I could, but mentally I couldn't. And that's when I said had to quit. So 98 was my last full year on tour. That was it. So January of 99, I moved from Kansas uh, um, to out to California. So I've been out in California, Southern California, since January of 99.
Okay. Um, so I was trying to find it online. I know we talked about it. You had a pretty good year in 1990, not rookie of the year. What was what were your thoughts about that?
Well, Well, you know, here is with the PBA rules, and back then, and the qualifications to become Rookie of the Year, and I think they changed it in 19. I don't know if it was 91 or whatever, but I think what happened is or I know what happened is all the way up until like 19. I think it was the third PBA or third national PBA Tour stop you bowl is considered your rookie year. I think in 88 I bowled one tour stop, 88 I bowled two, or I'm sorry, 88 one, 89 two, and then I went full time in 1990. But I bowled only two stops in 89, and so that was considered my rookie year. In 1990, that was theoretically my full year. I think in 91 they changed it, or 92 they changed it to where you can bowl up to four or five. I think it's your fifth tournament in a year, so you could bowl like four every year for 3 or 4 years, and have
Mhm.
12 tournaments, and or 16, and not have your rookie year yet. I think it's when you bowl your fifth tournament that year. So unfortunately, I wasn't qualified as rookie of the year, even though I was really a rookie. I bowled three tour stops, never made it into the, never made it into the cash or anything. Any of those, it doesn't matter. That was my rookie year in '89. But
Mhm.
what ironically is my first TV show I made, was NBC Fall Classic with in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with Jay Randolph and Earl Anthony as the
Mhm.
commentators. Is on NBC, and I bowled Marshall Holman, and then I bowled Parker Bone for the title. And I remember, I think it was Earl Anthony was saying that, if Kelly wins today, he'll lock up Rookie of the Year. And I'm like, I didn't know that because I'm bowling, right? But I wound up hearing that later, and I'm like, wait, I'm not eligible. They even thought I was a rookie because of that, but because they don't know who I was. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, though, that's one of the rules that got changed after me, right? So
Mhm.
it is what it is. And Brad Kazuski wound up being Rookie of the Year. I think he had a fourth or fifth place finish, and
Mhm.
he did well. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like my stats might have been a little bit stronger at that time. I had a second place finish. I think I had more cashes or more top 24. But it is what it is. And I
Yeah,
think
and we're
that's the
gonna
reason
talk.
why, or that is the reason
Yeah,
why that because I wasn't eligible. Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna talk about rules coming up. But what? Who do you feel like you beat on TV a lot or in match play?
Um, you know what? I here's the thing. I think the guys I felt like I could beat in match play, whenever I bowled them on TV, I couldn't, and I think it was the other way around. I obviously I didn't beat a ton of people on TV because my 5 seconds or whatever I had, I didn't obviously win a bunch of titles, but I
Mhm.
made what 12 or 13 shows, and I did very well. You know, I've lost Amleto on TV, but I've beat Amleto on TV. I felt like I always had a really good chance, if not trying to remember back, we're talking a long time ago, is I felt like I always fared very well against Parker, but
Mhm.
on TV, I bowled him once on TV and he beat me.
Okay.
Pete Weber, I bowled him once on TV, he beat me. But I felt like those guys, I felt like I really um, did very well in match play. But then again, TV shows different. Is that
Mhm.
because they stepped it up, or who knows what it is? But it kind of give and take there on that.
Sure. All right. So, number 9 was who beat you a lot. You kind of covered that. So what was your favorite tour stop?
You know what? I'll tell you what, and I loved go. And I'll tell you, it's a combination of a few different things. First of all, I love bowling in Arizona because when we went to Arizona, it was summer, but I didn't mind the heat, and
Mhm.
I loved it because we could get out and go have fun, play golf. We stayed at the golf courses, stuff like that. Um, I didn't necessarily bowl well, maybe because I was focused on golf at that time, but I love going back east. So I think anything back east, I made a show at Johnny Petraglia's house there. I love bowling there. I love bowling back east. The atmosphere, I think it's more of a the fans too are more electric back there. I think back east at the time, because I think it's more, it's just back east, and being there, and as bowling establishments were very iconic and been around for a while versus back on the West Coast. I think it's just a different mentality with the people back there, and bowling. So really, Windsor Locks, Connecticut, I bowled up there. I think Jason Couch won that TV show.
Mhm.
Um, Anything back east. I love bowling back east on the East Coast.
All right, where don't you like to bowl? Oh, where don't you like to bowl, Kel? Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
Sorry, I can't
okay.
hear you right now.
You can't hear me right now. Can you hear me? Okay. Test 1, 2. We good? No? Um,
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Where don't you like to bowl?
Um, I don't want to make any fans mean or mad at me.
No.
you know, uh, Even though I told you I like to bowl on the East Coast, the family, but I think it's more of any time that we bowled that the weather was just terrible. I think it wasn't a particular stop. I mean, I think of the really cold, snowy weather because you're tracking in and out, and you got to make sure you keep your hands are cold. You got to warm up your bowling balls. It's like it's just
Mm,
it makes it more miserable. I don't think it had to do anything with the fans, obviously, or the bowling center. It's just more of the weather.
mhm.
Was the inclement weather was just made things a little more miserable during those times. Obviously, I'm a warm weather guy, but I think that was pretty much it. You know.
Okay. Where did the PBA never go that you wish they had gone to?
Well, you know what? I don't think it's a particular
Mhm.
spot. I think, really, honestly, I've bowled on the Japan Cup. I've done exhibitions in Taiwan. I've been to Europe for exhibitions. Would have done more internationally. You know how right now how NFL does their certain games that they do in Europe and stuff.
Mm,
I wish we could have done a few PBA tour stops in different countries. I
Right.
mean, we did go to Canada. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I really don't consider that as our you know, country, right? But I'm talking
Hmm.
about why not do some tour stops in England? Do a 3 or 4 tour stop in England, right? Just make it
Hmm.
worth our while over there. As far as don't just go there for one, go over there and have like the European swing or Asian swing, right? Go over to
Hmm.
Asian Bowl. I think we could have got a lot more recognition. Obviously, when we bowled the Japan Cup, a lot of people were there, so they embraced us as PBA. I think it would have been better for us as a sport, and as far as for on the professional side of it to really go there. I wish we'd have done more international stuff on a PBA style event, right? Not just exhibitions.
Sure, absolutely. Um, what was a PBA rule that you agreed with that other people didn't? Probably.
Well, you know, I don't sit there and try to harp on PBA rules because some people have their opinions, and I don't want to get in this you know political type talk with them about what I believe and what I don't believe.
Hmm.
I think sometimes that I wish there's certain rules or things that I think could have been tried to been talked about or modified. We never really had much of a say so on a lot of things. When
Hmm.
things happen, the rules, you know, yeah, when we bowl during the week, we all know the lanes changed, and they try to tell us they didn't change the lanes or they did this. Is that a PBA rule? PBA rules are supposed to say keep the lanes, the lanes conditions the same throughout the week,
Hmm.
and they did change. And and all I felt like is they would give us this excuse that it's because of the weather or something like this, and I don't buy that. So that's a rule. I mean, is that like a rule that rules and regulations? I don't know, but it's something that the PBA shouldn't have done, and they did. I think there's things that we could have done to make the PBA better. I hated the idea, and I don't want to get into a lefty righty um, debate here, but
Hmm.
the whole lefty righty thing I felt bad for them, but I also I felt bad for us at the same time. The lefty, and I'm talking lefty righty. You could divide it down into people who hooked the ball, who threw the ball straight. We all have different styles, whether it be lefty righty, hook the ball straight. But there's times you go out there and you bowl, and we may have a 4 week stretch where lefties had no chance, and I really feel bad for them because it's like you're going to bowl against us, and we've got a 20 pin advantage, because of the way the lane condition. Then there's times that it's the other way around. We go bowl, and I remember bowling, and I don't know where it was at, but I think I finished sixth, and I think the top five were lefties at one time, or something close to that. And I'm like, I'm like, I have no chance, and and then the other way around, no lefties make the top 24, and it's just, I think it's bad. I think maybe there should have been some sort of seeding involved, and it's just my opinion is the seeding involved in saying you take a percentage of lefties to make the top 24 no matter where they finish in the tournament. That's way everybody gets a piece of the pie, right? So
Hmm.
you're never really shut out of any tournament. That's not really a rule. I just wish that's something that I think could have changed on tour. You know
Sure.
just my opinion.
Right. Do you have no, absolutely. And so when I created these uh questions, I was just, Parker was the first pro I interviewed, and I said, geez, what should I ask him? So like I said, everybody gets these
Mhm.
questions. So is there an actual PBA rule that you didn't agree with, and what should have been a actual rule that wasn't a rule?
Um, Again, I think it's just basically kind of reiterating what I just said. Really, I mean, really, a rule that I didn't agree with.
Mm.
Um, I can't sit here, Derek, and say, "Hey, it was one particular rule." I just think there's things that could have been changed to make the sport better.
Sure.
My opinion only, right? Obviously, and there's hundreds of other opinions. When it comes to, rules I didn't agree with or should have changed. You know, I think it basically kind of encompasses kind of what I said. There's just certain ideas, and it's not so much a rule. It is, I think things
Mhm.
could have. I think if they could have really listened to us as bowlers more, and take a consensus of all of us, not just whoever's on the board or whatever, but just a consensus of all of us, and listen to us. And I just felt like we never really had that as much. I think part of it is going back to going from ABC to CBS and all this stuff, and we were basically the guys out there bowling, right? They ran the company, and we didn't really have much of a say so. That's what I felt like.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So at the end of every episode, we do a thing called going flush in the pocket. Um, and it's just a fun thing. 12 questions. Every shot is flush in the pocket. So you're going to bowl 300 game here. What's your favorite food, Kelly?
God, thank God I'm probably in better shape than I was on tour. I'm getting old, that's why. But I think that when I was on tour, Brian Goebel, I come from Kansas, and I didn't have access to a lot of Asian food, Chinese food, stuff like that. And Brian says, "Hey, we got to try this." I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know." He took me out. I think it was Windsor Locks, Connecticut. We went and ate Chinese for the first time, and I think we were going like 2 or 3 times a week. So I love Mexican food. I love pizza. There's
Nice.
probably not foods that I don't like, right?
Hmm.
So we were eating Chinese food like 2 or 3 times a week. We loved it.
Hmm.
And experiencing all that. I think really, honestly, going out on tour opened me up to a lot of different cultures and a lot of different foods. Growing up in the Midwest, my mom never made Chinese food. She wasn't that way. She we lived out in the country, and she made her typical good hearty dinners and stuff like that. The fried
Hmm.
chicken, you know, all that good stuff, right? From the
Sure.
people you think in the Midwest eat. So experiencing all that stuff opened up to me to so many different things. I
Hmm.
still love the pizza. Don't get me wrong. Desserts, ice cream,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. Cinnamon
Oh,
rolls. I love cinnamon rolls.
there you
Anyway,
go. Yeah, absolutely. What's your
now you're
favorite
making me
music?
hungry.
Hey, you know, it happens that time. What's your favorite music? Oh.
Okay, you know what? And my favorite music overall has been really classic rock. I grew up in that classic rock age. Eagles, Boston. Got to throw out Kansas in there because that's
Hmm.
where I'm originally from. But that type of music, Aerosmith, um, those are great bands. And that's who I grew up with, right? So you're really everybody's kind of a product of their own environment, right? So my kids listen to different music nowadays. You kind of grow up listening to they're in their their late 20s, early 30s, and they were all that Katy Perry, and it's like everything's kind of changed,
Yeah.
but that's what I grew up with, and I love that. Some of the old Elton John, believe it or not,
Hmm.
Neil Diamond. I love some of that, some of the older stuff. That was some
Hmm.
of my best. Now it
Yeah.
was different music when I listened when I was on tour for motivation, stuff like that.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to appease you here and move on. We are going to carry on my wayward son to question three. What's the best advice you were ever given?
I'll tell you what, and I think going out there and I think rooming with Brian Goebel and listening to him because he would never steer me wrong. Like I said, he every time I go back to Kansas, I want to try to get with him and go golfing or do something like that. And he kind of helped me through a lot of things. Me being my first year out there because he started short or before I did on tour, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just basically you know just my style was very different, right? So I had a lot of people that would try to change me and say you can't do this, you can't do that, and you know what? I look at it as maybe I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe that they're trying to help me out, but I try to stay in my lane of who I was, and this is my game. This is what got me there on tour, right? This is what got me there on tour. This is what was making me successful on tour. I wasn't trying to change who I was. All I was trying to do was make my game better and adapt to it. I wasn't trying to listen to too many people say, you need to do this, you need to do this. I had a very well renowned person was trying to um, and I think I've told you this before, Derek, but I'm not going to say his name, but very well respected person, um, not around anymore, was a great influencer in the bowling industry, and he tried to get me for a year to try to throw the ball, and I felt like he was trying to get me to throw the ball like David Ozio, or David
Mm-hmm.
Ozio or Brian Bosch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that's their style. I didn't get here because of that. I worked with him for a while, and it just never did gel. And I think I tried to stay true to who I was, and that was it. And
Mm.
try not to listen to too many outside influences.
Well, yeah, because you're the only one paying your bills, so you have to stay true to who you are and what you do. If I was to, maybe compare your game, I had to say that you're pretty close to Bob Vespi and maybe Jess Stayrook on the left. You're like, you can similar to those guys.
Yeah. I mean, Bob Vespi, his ball speed was way down, but the revolutions, right,
Hmm.
and the bent arm style, stuff like that. So when I came out, I was out before Bob Vespi, but Stayrick was already out there, right? So he was the
Hmm.
big cranker on the left. You could think of people back in John Gant, right? The big cranker on the left side that threw the ball a lot harder.
Hmm.
On the right side, the people that came out was Jimmy Keith, but he threw the ball faster than I did, but he had the big hook on it too. I think later on in my years, right before I retired, was Robert Smith. And in fact, I went up running into him out here in California about 6, 8 months ago. And we hung out for a little bit and talked for a while. But we talked about the old tour days and the way the lanes were and the way they changed. But you know, different people, different styles. I came in. Mark Roth was there. I got to meet him. Late great, obviously Mark Roth. Um,
Hmm.
been to his house for dinner. Very gracious, and he was that different style at that era back before I was, right, in the '70s, '80s, right. So he was
Hmm.
he was the cranker on tour then, and then but my style was a little bit different than his. But I came in as the cranker in the '90s, right. So.
Hmm.
And I use the word cranker. I don't know what you want to call it nowadays, but the big hook player, right, with a lot of revs. But
Sure.
but there was,
Yeah.
Vespi slower, hooked the ball a lot, but there was different players like that.
Yep. Well, I mean, the name of this episode was the '90s Cranker, so that's appropriate. What is your favorite vacation spot, or where is your favorite vacation spot?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, where I go most regularly, and I love the feeling of it. I love Hawaii. Don't get me wrong, Hawaii's beautiful country, and I love it. It's very expensive, unfortunately, but I love it
Hmm.
there. But honestly, what seeds into me, but I can't get there that often, is Europe. I love England, Scotland, Wales. I love all that stuff.
Hmm.
I'm going to Italy this year, so I'm going to be going to Italy, and I got a feeling it's going to be one of my most favorite spots.
Oh, that's
I
incredible.
just love that old culture and history. I'd love to. I plan to, you know, in the next 10 years, buy a place over maybe in Italy somewhere and come back to the States. I just want to be able to have that downtime. I love that. Being out here in California, and it's living in this big city is just it's like being in the middle of a tornado, right? So it's just
Hmm.
I need to get that. I need to slow down.
Oh yeah. Um. Yeah, definitely. So let's see here. Number 5. When you were on tour, what did you do to take your mind off of bowling?
I didn't hear you were breaking up, but I think I read when I was on tour. Is that correct?
Yeah, when you were on tour, what did you do to take your mind off of bowling?
Yeah, I think it was. I think yeah, it was something about that. Now I know. So what I took my mind off bowling. So going back to the music, my favorite music, right? So and I didn't
Mhm,
mention this person, but a lot of people don't know her, but she's Irish Gaelic music called Inya. Inya.
mhm,
She
mhm,
had. I love listening to her stuff when I wanted to. Her music was very soothing.
mhm,
It brought me down. And then when I wanted to pump myself up, it was, you know, listening to my Eagles, my Aerosmith, and all that stuff to
mhm,
kind of get you pumped up and get you moving, right? So, I think
mhm,
it's more music was more of a mood to help me soothe or prepare for bowling, right? And it's just kind of getting in that mentality. And I think it's just not me. I think it's a lot of sports. People listen to certain musics that kind of help them get to where they need to be mentally, right?
mhm. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. So, what are you binge watching right now?
Oh my God. You know what? People laugh, maybe may laugh, but I kind of binge watch whatever my wife wants to watch, right? So it's, we go from Netflix. I've done everything from the Game of Thrones to, we're done with that, but to different things to, I love all kinds of a lot of crime drama, stuff like that. I think right now we're watching, I think it's Good Morning Veronica, some thing from Brazil or something like that. But we watch many different things. Obviously, Yellowstone is a very
Mhm,
popular one that people have watched. Um, I've watched the show Suits. I mean, and we just go through series after series after series, right? So whenever we
mhm.
get done with one, we binge watch something else, and that's pretty much what we do. So we just constantly, it's on to the next one. But right now, it's the middle of this one that's called I think it's Hello or Good Morning Veronica or something like that. So it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Kind of interesting and neat.
Um,
It's a police drama.
oh, there you go. So Adam wants to know what was it like to bowl on ABC Sports Chris with Chris Schenkel in the booth and Bo Burton? Was the telecast on ABC different from NBC other than obviously the network?
Well, you know what? I think ABC. I think when you're talking about just aesthetics, right? So I think when I bowled in NBC, the lighting and stuff was a little different. Wasn't quite as bright. But the first time I bowled I only bowled one show on NBC. We didn't have that many shows on NBC. ABC, a lot of lights. So first time I bowled on air, it was almost like blinding. No wonder why people like Parker, or not Parker, but Pete Weber would wear the sunglasses, right? Because it
Mhm.
really knocks down a lot of that glare. People don't realize how bright it is when you get up there and you start to bowl on TV and those lights are blaring right at you. They got spotlights right on you, and we're not used to that. I mean, obviously you have to get used to it. Everybody, if you're bowling against someone else, they've got to deal with it too. So it's not like it's wrong, but that's the difference. NBC, Earl Anthony, Jay Randolph, they were very mellow. I think Bo Burton was, and I got along with Bo really well. And Chris Schenkel's obviously a great guy and a Hall of Famer in what he did for the years, right? So being around there,
Mhm.
Bo, he always give me a hard time, but then he would kind of laugh about it afterwards, right? He was like, "Oh, Kelly, he would just. I think on TV he was good at giving some a little bit of criticism, and but then off TV, we would talk about it and stuff like that. And he goes, well, he's got to kind of do that really to kind of give a little bit of a for the fans, right?
Sure, right.
But no, there was I enjoyed all those guys, and then we had Mike Durbin and doing a lot of I think it was ESPN. He did that.
Mhm. Mhm. When you're bowling on TV in a bowling center, this is my question. Are the lights in the bowling center off and it's just the stage lights? Or are the lights in the bowling center on, including the stage lights?
You, you know what? I couldn't tell you 100%. Obviously, the lights are on. It's just a matter of whether they have all the lights on, right? Because they have to
Sure.
have some lights on because people got to see to get around. But all I could see was the stage lights, right? So that was like so overpowering. But they had the other lights on too. I don't know if they had every one of them on. They had other lights on, but it was we were such
Yeah.
under spotlight. It's like looking at deer in headlights. Is this
Oh
the whole
man.
term.
What's the most expensive item of clothing you've owned or ever bought?
Oh God, I'm a simple guy. I'll tell you right
Okay,
now.
me too.
In again, I'm talking to my buddy Brian Goebel. He was a Target or Walmart shopper, so he was that way,
Mm,
right? So I'd always
mm,
go to Nordstrom's or Macy's or something like that and buy something a little more expensive. But I didn't buy anything real expensive. I mean, you go to like $100 pair of jeans or something like that. Um,
whoa.
I didn't need to buy anything, a nice leather coat, 300 or 400 bucks, nothing expensive. Now, being married and my wife now, it's a little different story. She wants that Chanel, and so
Mhm.
it's not for me, obviously.
Right.
And I told her I don't need to wear anything like that. But
Yeah.
I bought expensive clothing, but not for me.
Yep. Let me get your opinion on this. So I'm on Bolify staff, and some of my shirts they cost like 40, 50 bucks. What do you think about that?
Well, of course. I mean, look,
Okay.
you know what? I don't care if you've got the money to pay 40, 50 bucks for a shirt. Some people don't. Some people think, oh, well, that's cheap. Well, you know what? It's all about how it makes you feel, what comfort. I'm wearing a free shirt, but
Mhm.
I from my company. So,
Oh,
but I don't care. I have some shirts that are more like t-shirts that are 70, $80 shirts, right?
mhm.
That I bought. Some of my nice collared shirts are 100, bucks from Robert Graham. I love Robert Graham's shirts. But then again, there's some shirts I wear around, just lounge around in. It's all about the comfortability, right? So
Mhm.
whether you 40 bucks, if you pay 40 or 50 bucks for a shirt and you're happy with it, good for you. But
Right.
it doesn't bother me. But I love certain styles. Depends on when I want to dress up and go out.
All right. So question number 8 was favorite weather season. I've pretty much figured, because you've mentioned that you like the heat. So I'm going to change it. If you're dying of thirst and you just need something to drink, not necessarily because you're hot, but you're so thirsty you want your favorite beverage. What is your favorite beverage?
This right here. Hold on. What does that say? Essential water.
What is it?
I help build this brand. Essential water.
Okay.
Essentia. This
Okay.
brand here. Hold on 1 second. This brand right here.
All right. That's awesome. Okay.
Are you familiar? Are you
Good.
familiar with it?
Essential is it's
I
called
I
essential
uh,
water?
I started with that company, Essential Water, right? It's like Smart Water, all that stuff,
Okay.
right? So,
I
um,
got to try it.
I started with that company in 2016. Company was very much in its infancy, and we are the highest P. We're the pH water, and we're the number 2 water in the nation in sales, right behind Smart Water.
Mm.
And so I have to say that drink, right?
Yeah. No.
Obviously, to me, if I'm dying of thirst, I'm going to drink my Essentia to get rehydrated, and then I'm going to go with a nice iced tea.
There you go.
Iced tea. I love iced tea. I drink iced tea every night.
There you go. That's awesome. If you could have dinner with 3 people living or past, who would they be?
That's my senseless plug.
Yes,
You know
I
what?
like it.
I'll tell you. Really, some people may say So when it comes to the three people,
Mm-hmm.
obviously I have to say four people right now.
Say whatever you want,
And
buddy.
I'm not, and my dad is still alive. That's the only reason I'm not going to say him is my mother. My mother passed away July 5th, which is my birthday. She passed away on my birthday in 1997. And
Mm-hmm.
my youngest son was born February of 97. So he was only like 5 months old or whatever. So um, I would love to have my three kids and my mother having dinner together. Not that I wouldn't want to encompass more, but those right now,
Mm-hmm.
because if I had my mother and my three kids, they would be able to meet their grandmother, and she'd be able to see her grandkids.
That's awesome. I'm
That's
a
it. I
February.
mean, I don't need to be with, and then I think after right after my family, probably you, Derek.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. I really do. Likewise. I think you're one
No,
of
I
the.
honestly, anybody. I enjoy company. Sorry.
Mhm. No, you're good. I think the fact that you gave me 40 minutes of your time the other night, just to debrief you on what I do here. Even we talked about stuff other than that, and I think you're a stellar guy. And when I created this podcast, right, I said to you, I consider professional bowlers heroes, whether they have one title, zero titles. If they've made it on TV, if I got to watch you bowl, you're a hero to me. So when the fact that these guys and gals will talk to me, I either want to, you know, have a lifelong friendship, or if some of them are like, well, I did your podcast. Good luck to you. Have a good day. Bye. That is what it is. I never want to shove myself down somebody's throat, but I created this podcast to get closer to the people that I look up to the most. So
Yeah, no, Derek, when you called, I didn't hesitate to call you or talk to you on the phone.
no.
I, you know, um, it's always good. In fact, I enjoy this because it brings back this always brings back. I don't bowl right now. I haven't bowled really in a long time, but it brings back good memories.
Yeah.
Obviously some are not particularly good, but really overall
Mhm.
really good memories, or just memories in the past. It's my history. We're all going to have good memories and bad memories of the past, no matter what we're in.
Mhm.
So it was fun talking to you and just digging up old memories, and obviously you're more than welcome to call me and talk to me anytime. You know,
Yeah.
it is enjoyable, and you're any of the fans out there. I've always been one to stop and talk if I could, and there's times on tour when we bowl on tour, when we're actually bowling, one of our blocks, our bowling, our 6 game blocks that we have, fans would come up and ask us for an autograph, and we couldn't sign it during bowling competition because it would be a fine for us. And
Mhm.
I don't think they always knew that. And I'll tell you what, there was fans that especially young kids, not it didn't really matter, but young kids really are a little more towards my heart because I love kids, and they would come up and ask for it, and I would say, you know what, when when I get done bowling, I will come find you. And I never, not that I remember, I never forgot to go try to remember to go find that kid or that person and try to sign that autograph for him because it meant a lot to them. And
Mhm.
even if I bowled good or bad, it didn't matter. It wasn't about me. It was about them. And I would always try to find them and go sign something for them and try to
Mhm.
talk to them and like I said, I got some fan mail about parents even talking about my kid, talking about how you went out of your way to talk to my kids. Those are things I never forget. And
Right.
this whole thing, just even talking to you, and even though we really never met, it's the way that I don't get to talk about bowling really anymore, except for any of my friends who ever
Hmm.
call me, and
Right.
it's always good. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever have a celebrity crush, Kelly?
Is my wife on here?
I don't know.
So, you know what? You talking about a girl crush or
Sure. However you want to take
when it
this.
comes to my as far as a friend's crush with like a guy I watch on show and say, dude, I love watching his movies and stuff like that, or girls. I really don't want to start there and say anybody in particular as far as when it comes to a female. There's ones that you look at and you go, wow, beautiful person. Then there's some that were great actresses and they're great actors. So I don't want to really kind of go that direction. So
No,
I would
gotcha.
love to,
No, no
but
problem.
but
Hey, listen, what was your
I'm gonna
favorite?
plead the fifth on that one.
Sure, no problem. What was your favorite toy as a child?
Uh, Pardon my favorite.
Favorite toy as a child? Yep.
As a child, you know what? You're talking like really, really long or
Whatever you want.
teenagers. I
However,
tell you what,
ho-
as a kid, I tell you what I love doing the most. This is going to sound, it's not an actual particular toy, right?
it's all right.
So I grew up out in the country. Friend of mine, Bill Busby, he bowled in tour in 1990. He roomed with Bob Benoit out there during that time.
Hmm.
And we grew up together, and he's still my friend. And he lives in Arizona, but we bowled juniors together. He would come spend the night, probably like three Saturdays out of four. He would spend the night at my house. We would we would play pool.
Hmm.
So it's really not a toy, is a plain pool. But the thing we loved doing most is we would set up on a table, and we would set up, whether it be, remember the old skee ball or whatever, that little skittle thing that throw the ball and it'd swing around and hit these little pins.
Yep.
So we would take these like little wooden pins and we would set them up in the hall and we would bowl with a pool ball. We would
Oh my
roll it.
God, I
We
love
would
it.
lay in the hallway and we would roll that ball down the hall and just try to knock them over. I mean, it was like that was our most fun thing we did.
Oh, that's awesome. So I got to tell you this: the bowling alley where I bowl at here in Florida. I'm here in Florida for a couple more weeks. Okay, I bowl at Treasure Lanes. Their house balls
Hmm.
are pool balls. Their house balls, like they don't have an 8 ball. They don't have an 8 pound ball because
Oh,
they
really?
think, yeah, yeah, they don't have an 8 pound ball because they think the 8 ball is going to get stolen, which I agree with. But they they have a 7 pound ball, a
Yeah.
9 pound ball, a 10, 11, 12. Oh my God, it's awesome. It's incredible. Like, yeah, I kind of wish I can get one of those in like a 14 pound or something.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Um, so
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually pretty cool. So, yeah.
final question is, when you leave this earth, how do you want to best be remembered?
You know what? It's just obviously a good person, right? I mean, look, when you take in a scope of things in life and everybody, what you go through in life, the ups and downs, everything else, it's just, I want to be remembered as a good person, obviously a good father. When I bowl on tour, I don't want people to look back and go, he was a he was a jerk, or he was this or that, like that. I don't want to be remembered like that.
Hmm.
I want to remember, yeah, I remember Kelly. He was a good guy. I remember he went out of his way to talk to me, or he said this or that, and you know, that's how I want to be remembered. You know,
Oh, that's awesome. Yep. And that, like I said earlier, super guy. I'll talk to you anytime. You always have a spot here, and anytime you need or want to talk about anything troubling you or whatever, I'm
well,
always here. So, um, all right.
well,
So,
hey Derek, why I have you on here?
sure.
If you don't mind, Derek, Hey, you know what? A couple things that you probably don't know about me that maybe your fans do know. You probably do know. You remember ASIO, right? I helped start that company back in like '91.
Okay.
ASIO bowling balls,
Okay.
and so I developed, you know, uh, the different balls back then, and so I that just goes to show you kind of that I stayed in the bowling when I left, that I stayed in the bowling and tried to get in and work with it there. But when you talked about the balls and you talked about getting a 14-pound ball and stuff like that, it just brought back the memories of ASIO and how I developed and tried to create certain bowling balls and do different things like that. And I wish I was still in that industry, right? So still a lot of passion in that industry, and I wish I was.
Yeah.
And I'd love to give a nameless plug for what I currently do now, and people can reach out to me. It's my art. So you
Oh,
know,
yes. Yes.
if
Talk
that
about
would be
that.
fine, they could either
Yes.
follow me on Instagram or my website. So if anybody knows who I am or as far as what I've done, and some people do follow me on, I do a lot of artwork, right? So I do it very artistic. So if you want to check me out, look me up on Instagram on Motion Art Kelly. So it's just the word motion, MOTION, art, ART, and then Kelly, KELLY. That's my Instagram handle. A lot of artwork that I do. That's who I am. If you want to message me through there, I'd be more than happy to respond. That's one way you can reach out to me. I also have my website, which is kellycoffmanart.com, KELLYCOFFMANART.com. Some of my artwork I put up there. So that's what I do now. So I don't really bowl much. I golf. I bowl maybe once a year, a few games. I golf whenever I can. I'm working obviously at my day job during the day, and I do a lot of artwork. So that's who I am and what I do. And I live in Southern California here now in beautiful Irvine.
That's incredible, man. I mean, you're fantastic. You're fantastic. And I know we had technical difficulties, but hey, we made it work. We got through it, and I'd do this again in a heartbeat. Next Thursday, or excuse me, next Wednesday, you got Tennille Grijalva Milligan. And she's got some great stories about her tour life. So we're going to talk about that. Kelly, thank you so much for going and flushing the pocket with me. And, I greatly appreciate it. I hope you had a lot of fun.
Yes, no, I appreciate it, Derek. Anytime, I appreciate it very much. And thanks again, anybody and everybody watching. So please need to reach out to me. You know how to get hold of me and say hi. I'll say hi back. All right, Derek, have a good one. You have a great day and have a great weekend.
You too, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. That was Kelly Coffman. What a great guy. And Flush in the Pocket. We'll be back on Wednesday night when we talk to Tennille Grijalva Milligan. All right, everybody. Have a good night or good day, and I'll talk to you soon.